Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And what we're doing today, it's a Thursday, so I thought I'd do a little Throwback Thursday action for you. And today we're going to look at an older version of an Axis and Allies game called simply Axis and Allies Europe. Some of you may own this and may even play it every now and again. But it's definitely a more simplistic game than what many of us are used to with the Axis and Allies Global 1940, 42, and also with the historical board gaming ones, which are much more in-depth, much richer game experience. But I tell you, sometimes the heart just wants what the heart wants. And today I thought, I'm going to do something with an older game and take a look at it. So this is the Axis and Allies Europe, the one that came out in 1999. So this is the one where some of the house rules that people had been using with the original game, they were put into the rule set. Some people were playing with things like artillery and destroyers, and so they implemented that. So there's some arty there, a little 88. And of course, because of the U-boat menace, you see in this game there's tons of U-boats. There are 10 of them to start the game, which is that's a lot of problems for the Allies. There are more U-boats on the board than there are Allied ships in the Atlantic. So they have quite the quite the stranglehold. And so the Allies have to respond. And so the destroyer was made for that purpose. And a couple of notable things in this game. If we look over here at the costs of things, you can see on the left here, the tanks are still 5, which is nice, but they only defend at a 2. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we see the destroyer worth 12, but it attacks and defends at a 3. And we also see the battle wagon is still 24, and the carrier is still 18. And the fighters are still 12. So they've changed the prices, obviously, in most of the iterations of war games to make tanks double that of infantry and to make fighters a bit cheaper, so people will buy more aircraft. And also boats have gotten considerably cheaper as they've gone along, and their abilities have increased. So it just makes things a little bit more interesting than the typical, Russian slugfest with nothing but men, and the Germans with their tanks, and so things are a bit different. But this is the first game that really spoke to some of those little changes. Again, there's no tactical bombers in this, and there's no specialized units, special armor, special infantry units. Amphibious assaults are very basic. Load them on the transport, drop them on the land. There's no order of casualties or anything like that. Convoying is very simple in this game. It's just a box. And so if the Germans want to convoy the British, they go into that box. And the British convoy is worth 3, so that much will come off of the British collect income phase if they haven't cleared out that U-boat by the time that comes along. There's no dice roll needed, anything like that. But the nice thing is that America is in the war right off the hop, and so they're able to get down there because it's just one. It goes 1, 2 into there. Okay, so their destroyers can make it. But as you can see, the Americans start with a grand total of 6 units on the board, none of which are armor or artillery, and one of them is a transport. So typically the Germans, they can have some fun with their U-boats here, and they will go after the transports on this side of the Atlantic on round 1, and then mop up whatever's left on round 2, because they've got a decent air force as well. It is interesting to note that the transports in this game are, well, they have a little bit of defense. They roll a 1, so you got a D1, kind of like shooting down a bomber. So they're not helpless as they typically are in most games. So we call them the Merchant Marine, and they usually got a big gun on the deck or something under a tarp, and do what they can to protect themselves. As things start out here, you know, we're in 1942, and the battle lines are well and truly drawn. Or 41, pardon me, not 42. I don't know why I said 42. 41, and the Russians are just tooling up for a war. They've taken Poland, but the Russians still have East Poland. The Germans are coming in to take that and the Baltics and do their big push. Now, the thing that I learned the hard way, because I hadn't played this game for a few years, is I brought all my tanks and as many infantry as could make it, and I punched really hard, and I got right into Belarusia, and then, oh right, tanks defend at a 2. I didn't do so well, because all my tanks, my artillery, my men, they all defend at a 2. In fact, the only unit that defends at a higher than a 2 is a fighter, as far as ground battles go. So defense is not the key in this game, and you can really put the hurt on the German armor as Russia, because Russia does start with a sizable amount of infantry, as you can see. There's quite a bit of infantry there, and they also have the 3 factories. Now in this game, when you take over a factory in a foreign country, you can use it, but only 1 unit per turn can be cranked out of there. Whereas the Russians can put as many as they want. There's no limit to how many they can put in. So they can really pop you. You can see that Belarusia is right between Stalingrad and Leningrad, and that's where I got caught with my knickers down and got hammered. So I had to regroup everybody back in Germany, and I spent a little less on tanks, a little bit more on infantry and planes, so that, you know, my infantry might get chewed up, but the planes can retreat and come back to hit another day. So that's always fun. Some nice things about this game: very clean lines. Everything is laid out very nicely. There's no guesswork as to where a territory stops, where it starts. Is it connected to this territory? Is it not? Everything is very, very plainly made. And the whole idea of going through the Dardanelles here, no, you can't, because the Turks just say, no, we're neutral. And Sweden's neutral, Spain is neutral, Spanish Morocco, such as it is neutral. Saudi Arabia is neutral, which brings me to another neato point of this game. So you can see over here we've got some yellowish territories, okay? And if you add up all of the boxes, they add up to 8. Okay, you can't see everything here. Not sure where they all are. There's Iran back there worth a couple. But they're worth $8. Now, nobody owns this. Now, you can see the Allies hold them, but they don't make any money off them. But the thing is, if the Germans are able to get some troops into, say, Egypt, then you adjust the Middle East oil production, and you move the German one up 1. And so the Germans will, at the end of their turn, get $1. But it doesn't come from the bank, it comes from the Allies. And so one of the Allies has to pony up the dough. And as more and more of these territories fall, and in a well-played game they will all fall eventually, this target will go up to 8. And then pretty soon the Allies are having to pay. Now they can split that among them, so if the States is doing well, they could, and they typically are because they make 30, but if they're getting convoyed, maybe they won't be able to. If we take a look at these U.S. convoy zones, $10 can be taken off the U.S. economy. So the United States, they make $40, but 10 of that can disappear pretty quickly. But if they can afford it, they could pay $5. Maybe Britain could pay 2, Russia could pay 1, or what have you. You can. And it's fun in a 4-player game listening to the Allies discuss amongst each other who should pay for the loss of the oil territories. In order for the Germans to get to the oil territories, though, they do need to get rid of this minor annoyance here. But remember, destroyers here defend at a 3, and so the destroyer and transport defends at a 1. Now the Germans have their battleship and a destroyer, so the destroyers cancel each other out. The battleship's definitely better than the transport, but a couple of lucky hits. If that happens, Germany is pretty hard pressed to do much in the Med. they need to get their money going east. But if they're successful, in most games they are, use a plane from northern Italy. They come down here, and within a couple turns, this is gone, and they've been able to ferry down some guys into Africa. You see, the Allies are going to have a whale of a time trying to get guys down here. The Russians could, but believe you me, they're going to have their own problems here. They're not going to really care about oil that the Americans are probably going to pay for anyway. But that's about it for the political intrigue in this game. So, you know, Germany can have some fun at the expense of the Allies. If you're playing one-on-one, it's not such a big deal. But when you have multiple allies playing, multiple players, pardon me, playing the Allies, it's a lot of fun to watch that take place. You can see some, you know, seeds of shall we say, ambivalence begin to germinate amongst the players when some of them demand that somebody else play, when they've already got their build ready to go for next round, and now they're going to have to shave some stuff off of it because the other allies are stingy. So, kind of fun, good interplay there between the players. Here's the beginnings of the Soviet convoy. As you can see, you know, if the Archangel falls, this convoy just outright gets eliminated. Now, Archangel's only worth $1. And I think I said 3 factories before. They actually have 4 because there's one up in Archangel. So Archangel's only worth $1. But if it falls, that's $5 off the Soviet economy because the Soviet convoy disappears. So now the Germans can just convoy by putting a sub in there. It's -4, which they tend to do because they've typically sunk the British fleet. And so they try to milk it for a little while to take care of that. But the game itself plays very well. Just be ready if you are going to play it about the costs of things and the fact that tanks only defend at a 2. That's a rude shock when you start seeing your tanks at $5 a piece, just rolling the same as infantry at $3 a piece on defense. So it's not really a good idea typically for the Russians to buy any tanks in this game. You actually start with 6. Okay, you got 6 armor there. Now, you know, you're about half of what the Germans have, but not quite half. You have 2/3 of what the Germans start with, but they're all in a good position. They can all punch everywhere they need to go, basically. You do want to hang on to your factories. You definitely want to hang on to Archangel. Don't let the Norwegian and the Finnish troops take Archangel. It'll just make for a very long game for the Russians. You want to keep your guys pointed forward and pointed westward and not northward if you can help it. Well, beyond that, that's about all there is to it. The submarines get their first strike. If there's no destroyer, that's pretty much the only caveat there. And then on you go. There's no really big complicated rule sets for this. For those of us used to 80 or 90 page rule books, this one's pretty friendly and not that big a departure from the original, except for, of course, the convoy zones and the artillery and the destroyers. But there you go, folks. Just thought I'd give you a little look at a game I really do enjoy playing, and thought I'd give you a few little tips and tricks for this game, a few reminders. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Hope you guys are having a great summer. We know times have been tough around for a lot of people with the forest fires and whatnot, but those are starting to get calmed down a bit, and the good thing for that is my wife has told me a couple of times, she's like, the forest fires are bad, obviously, the destruction that is wrought, but at the same time in Canada here, especially in British Columbia, we have a monstrous problem with the pine beetle. The pine beetle has been destroying everything for about 10 or 15 years up here, just destroying thousands and thousands of acres of softwood. And, the fire obviously wipes them out of large areas. So hopefully they get wiped out, eradicated, and the trees that grow up won't have to put up with it. So, all right, folks. Well, you know what? Have yourselves a great day, a great time with your friends and family, and let's treat each other really well in this community. And we've seen how people are treating each other in certain parts of the world. And you know what? We play war games as an homage to those who actually had to fight in them so that we could enjoy the freedom that we have. We all know this. And let's not smear their memory and the memory of their sacrifice by, just being jerks to each other. That doesn't take much effort. Let's rise above, and let's do what we can to make the world a better place for all of us, regardless of any of our beliefs or ideologies or anything like that. Let's come together, and let's have some fun, and let's just encourage each other and lift each other up, lift up our spirits, and just have a great time interacting with one another. So on that note, folks, take care, have yourselves a wonderful time, and may the dice be with you.